Eric, age 36, from Ottawa, says, if Kira discovered that her favorite breakfast cereal had ceased being made, how would she cope with the anguish and emotional backlash? Man, that is a great question, Eric. That is a question that I'm sure everybody has been wondering, and I'm here to answer it for you. You know, it's Kira, so she would probably do things like send very angry, foul-mouthed, profane language-laced emails to the people who make the breakfast cereal. She would probably make angry YouTube videos decrying them. And if all else failed, she would go to the nearest breakfast cereal convention and flash the CEO. What is your favorite Bruce Springsteen song? Seth15 from Highland wants to know. My favorite Springsteen song is one that was officially never supposed to be recorded and released. It's available on some bootleg CDs. Shh, don't tell anyone. It's called If I Was the Priest, and it is this great song. It's the song that when he was first trying to get a record deal, the people who were talking to him said, play us the one song you would never actually publish, and he played this song in a parking lot somewhere. And I just love this song. It's a Western about the fall of man and the Garden of Eden, and it's amazing. I love it. It's a great song. So, second question from Ryan, age 29, in Fayetteville, is, do you have any plans to release the graphic novel Schemata that Fanboy is writing during the book? I think it would be great. Thanks, Ryan. I think it would be cool too, but no, that's not going to happen. The reason is pretty simple. You know, Schemata was a graphic novel I had been planning on writing once, and when I started to write Fanboy and Goth Girl, I needed a graphic novel, so I thought, oh, I'll just let Fanboy have Schemata. And I was talking to a friend of mine once and saying that I might do this, and this guy said, no, you shouldn't, because right now Schemata exists in the reader's mind, and to the reader, it's perfect. It's the best it could ever be. And as soon as you actually write it and publish it, you're going to disappoint people, because some people are going to love it, but some people aren't going to love it. And right now, everybody loves it. It's perfect for everybody. And I agreed, he's right. Right now, Schemata is the greatest graphic novel ever to people who've read that book. So I'm just going to let it stay that way. We did make a couple of pages of art. A friend of mine did a few pages of art from Schemata that we were going to include in Fanboy and Goth Girl when it was published, and then we just couldn't make it work. It just seemed weird to just suddenly have comic book pages, so we never did that. But I will have to dig them up and put them on my website so everybody can see what Schemata was going to look like originally. Ryan, 18, from Bakersfield, says, have any of the situations or scenes in the novels happened to you, or have you done them yourself? For example, smoking on a baseball field or getting flashed at a comic book convention. No, I have not been flashed at a comic book convention. I have not been flashed at any convention, although every single one of my friends always makes that joke whenever I go to a convention that this is going to be the one where somebody decides to flash me. Some of the things in the books have been things that have happened to me, or at least are close. The scene at the end of Fanboy where Fanboy talks to Dina is very, very similar to something that happened to me in high school. With a girl who was very much like Dina, except I didn't get to kiss her, so I decided to make Fanboy's life even better than mine there. And a lot of the stuff that happened, especially in that first novel, was just based on things that I had experienced, and then I made them even worse for Fanboy. So, for example, walking around the comic book convention and you know, wanting to get Bendis interested in Schemata, but not knowing how to do it. That was sort of like me when I was a kid, trying to get a comic book published, walking around conventions, wondering, how do I get people interested? What do I have to do? What do I say? So yeah, a lot of that stuff begins with a little kernel of something real and then grows into something bigger. Okay, Rachel, 30, from New York, says, Kira is a really interesting character to me in the sense that even though I didn't always like her, I always empathized with her. Did you always like her? If not, how did you feel about writing the parts where she did things that bothered you? What do you think made you able to make her so sympathetic even when she's a bit frustrating? That is a terrific question, because some people just don't like Kira. She can be mean, she's extremely blunt, and she can be difficult. But I always liked her because I knew that all of her anger and her rage and the mean things she did and said all came from a very honest place, a place of hurt and pain. And I knew that it was never malicious when she would do and say mean things. It was always lashing out of pain because of what happened to her mother. And that made it really easy for me to write her, because I knew that that's what she wanted. She just wanted to express that pain and that anger. And constructive way to do it, but that's all she could do. So I never was in a situation where I didn't like her. I always liked her, and I just, you know, Rachel, I'm glad that you found her sympathetic even when she was frustrated. Not everybody has a heart of gold. Not everybody has a gooey center. Some people are in a lot of pain and they lash out, and those people need help too, and they need people to believe in them. So the next question fits in really well with this. This is from Chicago. Abesh, I hope I got your name right, age 17, says, if Goth Girl were real, would you date her? And that's a great question. First of all, if I were her age, yeah, I would. I wouldn't now, I'd get thrown in jail. But if I were her age, yeah, definitely. She's great, and she's really tough and honest, and I think honest people are great, and I would date her in a heartbeat. She'd probably kill me, but I would date her in a heartbeat. Emma, 23 from New York, says, a lot of the events in your books intertwine and cross into other titles because they're set in the same community. Which idea came first? When Josh briefly appeared in Fanboy and Goth Girl, did you already plan to write Boy Toy? Well, I mean, you might be a little bit confused because Josh doesn't appear in Fanboy and Goth Girl, but Kira does appear in Boy Toy. And the answer to that is that I didn't intend when I wrote Fanboy and Goth Girl to keep writing books that were set in the same school and in the same community. But as I started writing Boy Toy, I sort of thought, oh man, now I've got to write this whole new school and I've got to create new characters. And I thought, no, I don't. I'll just use the same one from the first book and have a little bit of fun with characters crossing over and meeting each other and things like that. So it started off just as a way of having some fun, but then it became more than that. It started to come together and create its own little universe. And I love it when people write to me and say, oh, I recognize this kid from here and that kid from there. And in Goth Girl Rising, characters from all three of the first books, from Fanboy and Goth Girl, from Boy Toy, and from Hero Type, all show up in Goth Girl Rising. Melissa from Plover, age 35, asks, do you have days or periods of time where you just can't seem to concentrate on what you're supposed to be writing? How to get through those times? Definitely, of course, all the time. Everybody has times where they can't focus on their work. Writers are no different. It depends on how bad the time period is. It depends on how much difficulty I'm having. Sometimes I just give myself a little bit of time and I shake out of it. Other times I play some Xbox and that gets me out of it. And sometimes I just work on something else. I'll just sit down and I'll work on a different book or a different story, and that'll shake loose whatever's in my brain that's causing problems, and I'll be able to get to work on the original project again. Matt, age 15 from Williamstown, wants to know, are there any plans for a companion Fanboy Minimate to go along with the Goth Girl Minimate? Sorry, Matt, probably not. The Goth Girl Minimate was a one-time special deal that we did just to have some fun for the new book, and there's probably not going to be a Fanboy Minimate. They were sort of difficult to put together, and on top of that, Fanboy Minimate would probably be kind of boring. He just looks like a kid, whereas Goth Girl has a neat, interesting look to her. So no toy for Fanboy. Sorry. And this question is from the same person who asked the first question. She asked two really good questions. This is Shannon, 27 years old, from Murrieta, California. And the question is, where does the timeline of Goth Girl Rising fall in with Boy Toy and Hero Type's stories? And that's a great question because the timing of some of the stories might be a little strange. You can piece things together if you read all of them. But the way it works is Fanboy and Goth Girl comes first. Goth Girl Rising takes place 6 months later. So it's 6 months after Fanboy and Goth Girl. And then Boy Toy and Hero Type both take place about a year after Fanboy and Goth Girl. So it's a year after the first book, but it's 6 months after Goth Girl Rising. I know that might seem a little strange because they didn't come out in that order, but that's the order that they take place in terms of time. But you can read them in any order, which is the great thing. You can read them in any order and they'll make sense, but if you read them in that order, then you'll be reading the timeline the way it actually took place. And just to make things even more confusing, if you go on my website, there's a short story called Her Decade that takes place before all of these stories, and there's also a short story in the anthology Geek-tastic that takes place around the same time as Fanboy and in the exact same school. So there you go. That is the entire Barry Lyga timeline. Hope you enjoy it. I hope you've enjoyed these 20 questions. I had a lot of fun answering them. Thanks to everybody who submitted, and especially to the people who gave me the answering questions. Thanks, guys. Bye.